to talk through this list, and we're going to save at least 15 minutes to deal with your questions at the end. I bet we'll provoke a lot of questions as part of this process. Okay, so that's kind of where we're headed. Okay, I'm going to get started. And I try to start with a money question. So I want to offer you 5 money-saving tips for your students and you. Now, I'm going to give you one clarification first. I'm going to talk about some services that are free. When I say free, that's not really what I mean. I'm saying it's free because you've already paid tuition and fees up front. So it doesn't cost them any more. That's what I mean by free. And here's my example. The UTM campus tries to stay well connected with the downtown Toronto campus, what's called the St. George campus. And to help that happen, we run a free shuttle back and forth. It's actually 45 round trips every weekday. So when your student wants to go downtown to go to some big event or to go to some activity, we try to make that easy for them. There are students who study at the downtown campus who want to come here to do events and activities. There are some programs that we offer that they don't, some programs that they offer that we don't. So we really want students to be able to travel back and forth. So that free shuttle is express. It picks up here at the UTM campus, actually kind of like right over there if we can do some x-ray through the building. Then it runs nonstop straight to the middle of the downtown Toronto St. George campus. Students get off, students get on, and then it runs nonstop back to here. Super convenient. Even though it's a school bus, it has Wi-Fi, it has comfortable 3-point seat belts, it has air conditioning. It's not bad at all. So that is fare free for UTM students. Others who use it pay a fare each way. So that's number one saver. Number two money saver is, so we're in the city of Mississauga here at UTM, and we have a special arrangement that our student government struck a deal years ago with the city, and we offer fare-free access to Mississauga Transit. So that's the Mississauga Transit system. So they can just flash. Actually, this year new, they'll load an app onto their smartphone. They just tap. It's part of the Presto system. Those of you in the GTA have heard Presto before. It's part of the Presto system, and they just tap when they're boarding the Mississauga Transit bus, fare free. It's also fantastic if you're crossing into other jurisdictions like our neighboring transit system. If you're going into Oakville or Brampton or Toronto, the TTC, just like all other Presto users, if you tap in Mississauga, you've got 2 hours to do transfers onto these other systems. So it's a nice money saver. So that's number two money saver. Number three is, I'm going to say fitness club membership. So your student, while being here gets, sorry, I'm going to keep doing this, free access to our fantastic Recreation, Athletics, and Wellness Center. 8-lane, 25-meter pool, indoor track, 3 gyms, dance studios, teaching studios, amazing activities. That's all available to them. And again, we believe that a healthier body leads to better learning. So, and it also helps them manage stress. So every time you can, encourage your student to go work out or do something active. It's also a great way for them to meet other people on teams and pick up basketball, that kind of stuff. So I think that's great. 5, this one is not free, parking. Every single person who's here, students, faculty, and staff, if they want to bring a car on campus, they're going to pay for parking. I pay for parking. I hate it too. We all hate it. But there are some ways that you can save money, and the two tricks are, well, the trick is different parking lots have different easy availability of parking in different locations on campus. So if you're cheap, like me, you park in one of the lots that has the lowest cost, but I have to be here maybe 10 minutes earlier than I might otherwise need to be here because it's a parking permit, but it's more kind of like a hunting permit. And that is, I may have to drive around a little bit, pause and wait, watch for somebody to come out to leave in order to slip into that space. So if your student can exercise a bit of patience, you can save money. If that's not something that's going to work out, then there are more expensive lots where you're a little bit more assured that there's going to be pretty ready availability. Okay. Fifth is an insurance issue. Your student automatically, as part of their tuition and fees, is enrolled in the student government's negotiated supplementary insurance plan. It covers things like the cost of most prescription drugs, it covers things like basic dental care, stuff like that. But a lot of you may be in employer insurance programs that cover your dependents until they're sometimes age 24, 25, something like that. So if your student is already covered by your policy, they can opt out of the charge for our policy. Does that kind of make sense? Give me one sec, and I can predict the question that's coming. So we do want your student to be covered, though. So what happens is we say, can you provide proof of, thank you. Can you provide proof of similar coverage? And your insurance company will be able to do that. That's just normal. You just have to ask it, they'll give you the sheet. The process, though, is it has a timeline. So in order for this to happen, your student has to log into a specific university system in September. And then if they do that, they'll get a refund of that money in December. But if they don't do it in September, that cost is lost to you. Okay, so September, you need to do that. Your students will be getting email from their student government, the sponsor of this, that will give them detailed instructions. Click here, here's how to do it. Hey, let's remind you again in 2 weeks they need to do it. So that'll happen, but it's not a bad thing for you to remind them too. So why don't you set a reminder for yourself near the end of September that if you have equivalent supplementary insurance, to remind your student to opt out. Maybe you could even say, if you opt out, I'll give you half of what we get back. You can bargain with them. Did that kind of cover your question?
A little bit.
And in the question section, we'll be glad to go into that too. Okay, thank you. So that's kind of the, you know what? I'm going to give you a bonus money saver. I want to mention textbooks. Used textbooks are great. And even our bookstore offers used textbooks for sale. There are other sources students can use too. Another thing that's fairly new in the last couple of years is e-textbooks. That is the cheapest solution, perfectly good. So your student can investigate that through the bookstore, online, or in person while you're here. It's really nice. So I would really encourage you to think about potentially using e-textbooks or used textbooks whenever your student's doing their book shopping. Doesn't always work, but a lot of times it does. Okay, next, how to find out how your student is doing. Someone asked that question down here. So I'm gonna give you a longer answer to the question that you asked, okay? I'm a believer that you and your student need to have a conversation this week, the next 7 days, and I think you should be engaging in a negotiation with them so that they let you know how they're doing. If you call me and say, how's your student doing? You're not going to get one bit of information out of me. The entire university says we have privacy regulations, and that privacy regulation means that I'll discuss your student with them, but not with others. But you've got negotiating power as a parent, family, or supporter. I would encourage, so let me put a little timeline on this. Your student's going to be in a set of courses that will either be September to December, so they'll get a final grade in December or early January. They're going to be in courses that run from January to April, or they're going to be in courses that span the whole thing, so September to April. But no matter what, they're getting grades, and they can see them in an electronic online system throughout the term. So what I would encourage you to do is to, I don't need to say warn your student, but I guess it is kind of what I'm saying. Warn your student that in December, you would like to see their progress. And that will help you and them decide how you will proceed with your support for the rest of the year. Now, again, we're going to try to calibrate your thinking. I do not want you to bargain with your student to say, show me your A's in December, okay? Because again, in your first year, it's hard to make A's. It's hard to make the transition to university studies. So don't be unrealistic in this. But I think it's perfectly okay for you to know that in December or early January, the students' grades are going to be posted in courses they completed, or they will still be able to see how they're doing in a course that's a full year. So just say right now, don't surprise them in December. I would like you to show me how you're doing in December so that we can talk about next year. Okay? I think that's completely reasonable. Yes.
Is there like a parent portal where search the people?
There is a parent newsletter that you can sign up for. I think they may have prompted you at registration. But is there a parent portal where you can see how they're doing? Absolutely not. 100% no, and it won't happen. But I think that's something that as a parent family supporter, you have the discussion now, you raise the expectations, and then you can see how things play out. Okay, next is, oh, sorry, I don't need to do that yet. Gotta come closer so the thing works. Come on. Advice on what to do if there's a dire change in family finances. If over the course of this year, a family member, a supporter loses a job, or there's something tragic in the family health situation, have your student come and talk to us. We, in many cases, have resources that can help a student recover from a dire change in family income so that they can continue their studies. Okay, so just that's really kind of all you need to remember about that. Especially if you've already applied for, this is mostly for domestic students, if you've already applied for OSAP or your other provincial financial aid support program, if you've already done that, even if you didn't get any money, then we have some baseline information already so that whenever your student comes in and says, parent just lost their job, it's significant change in my family circumstances, we can quickly reevaluate the circumstances to help them get through. It also, there's some opportunities for international students that are just a little bit more limited, but still we can help. Next, what is a healthy amount of communication with your student? I'm going to try to inspire a little bit of guilt in some of you. Some of you who text your students or your student texts you 12 or more times a day, 10 or more times a day, 6 or more times a day. I want you to have a discussion with your student this week to calibrate how often you need to hear from them. But I want you to be realistic about it. So let me talk a little bit more about that. Next week, I guarantee you that the campus police will call me and they're going to say, such and such a student, their parent called and they're freaked out because they've not heard from their student in 3 hours. I guarantee you I will get that call from campus police. Hopefully it's not someone who's been in this session. I'm looking at all your faces. I do not want to hear from you if that is the case. But I think the way you solve that is you negotiate with your student. Now, let me talk to residents first. You figure out what the expectation is and negotiate that with your student. But for some people, we just say, tell your student, I expect one text from you every day that says, I'm okay. That might be the baseline. Some of you will have different expectations. That's fine. But you negotiate that with your student so that nobody's surprised and nobody ends up with campus police calling me at home to say that they haven't heard from their student in 3 hours. Okay, fair? Yeah. The, the other thing about communications is I want you to rethink about how you chat with your student as they become more independent and mature. The key is to figure out what's going on in your student's life without being overly intrusive. And that's a skill that you and they have to learn as parents of university students. So one of the tips that I would have is don't make the questions that you ask feel like quizzes. It's more about asking your student to share with you things. So one fun example every year that I end up hearing is um, your student mentions that they met somebody new, and the parent immediately jumps to, tell me about that student. They kind of get immediately, they start quizzing the student and it feels more like an interrogation. Okay. Sure, your student might answer, but if you want more information, the better strategy is to say, tell me about some new people that you met today. Or, you just mentioned your roommate. Tell me a little bit more about your roommate. Like you want to start transitioning from that kind of grilling that some parents and families are into, more into these conversations that really are healthy, that it's more mature. There's also a trick to balancing your conversation, especially if your student's living in residence. Don't just ask them how they're doing, share with them how you're doing. Because they're probably disconnecting from you just because of distance. And so keep them in the loop on whose birthday's coming and what you did. And it's not about making them homesick. It typically doesn't do that. It helps them feel more connected. So I want you to think about that enhancing communications part, and ask, tell me something cool that you learned in class today, instead of, hey, I know you had a test coming. Did you hit the 90? Right? Tell me something that you learned new. That's inspiring them to say that, oh, my family's supporting me learning here, even sometimes if the learning is tough and it wasn't perfect. And I'm glad if when we get to the question section, if we want to talk about more about that communication stuff, I'm glad to. Next, why drop-off and pickup times matter. This is more focused on commuter families. We have some circumstances where a parent drops a student off. We say at the flagpole, and there's a particular place on campus where you can pretty much always see the flagpole. And so that's kind of the kiss and ride, the drop-off zone. And sometimes you know exactly what's happening. The parent drops the person off at 15 minutes before the class and says, I will see you back here 15 minutes after when your class is done. You and your student are not getting value from the more robust university experience by not giving them time to explore. Trust me, you want them going to study groups. You want them exploring the library. You want them joining clubs. You want them doing things that get more, you want them going to office hours. You want them doing things that give them more exposure and experience outside of the classroom too. And you can do that just by thinking about encouraging your students sometimes to stay late for a little while. You know what? Why don't you have dinner on campus even though you're done? Let's meet up at 8. Pick you up at 8. So give them that flexibility and that time to explore. It's really healthy for them. It's really good for them. And everybody learns more from the experience. Good ways for shy students to make strong connections. We've already kind of hinted at this, but I'm going to go at it again. On the left-hand side, sorry for the size of print, but it's available online. On the left-hand side are all the different academic societies that we have here at UTM. So there's an academic society basically for every single academic department that we have. So the first thing I want you to do in terms of encouraging your student to get to know people is to join the academic society that matches best with their academic interests. So like you can see, there's the biology society. So if your student's interested in biology, that's a great first club to join. And all of these clubs on the left, they're going to have tables out next week trying to get students to sign up. So it's super easy for your student to join. They can join more than one if they want to. Like if they're double major, looking at two different things, or they're curious, sure. On the right-hand side is just a sample, a very small sample of all the other clubs that we have on campus. This is just the list that runs from H to L. There's a whole bunch more. If your student has an interest, I bet we can find something in our great big list that they'll be interested in. Now, super happy. I want them to join the academic society first. Absolutely. But if they come home and they say, you know, there were all these tables and I signed up for 14 clubs, bad idea. We want them to pick 2 or 3 other things that kind of round out and let them explore. Now, one of the cool things is we have lots of cultural clubs. The nice thing about cultural clubs is we don't just want students to affiliate with a club that's associated with their own culture. We want them to cross over and explore other cultures. So events, activities, club meetings, dances, food events, stuff like that. I hope your student goes wild, not crazy 14 wild, but gets involved in some other clubs and interests that they will enjoy. Why you shouldn't be surprised if your student's academic interest shifts. I'm always a little bit hesitant to share this because I see some parents grimace. But here's the statistic that's pretty much North America wide. About 2/3 of students, new students, change their area of interest or their area of study at least once. 2/3. Now, I think that that is a good thing because it means that your student is being exposed to things here, maybe that they've never even had a chance to think about before. Maybe they've never in high school had a chance to take an anthropology class. Maybe they've never had a chance to think about forensic sciences other than watching, I say Dexter because I'm old, but like, you know, forensic science shows. We have these amazing courses that I would love for them to explore and discover. And I'll even go further than that. Your student has a, excuse me, your student has a primary area of academic interest, but we love and employers love double majors. So let me talk for a second about language. Your student has kind of a primary academic interest, and most students complete a degree in 4 years. So courses are kind of spread out over 4 years. Some take 5, some take 6. It's fine, we don't care. But 4 years is kind of how we hope it's planned out. If your student has a specialist degree, that means that they spend the majority of all of their courses studying in this one specialized area. So we think of it as a deep knowledge area, a specialist. If your student spends less time than that, but still a pretty significant chunk of time studying something, that's a major. And a student can have 1 major, but a student can also have 2 majors. Some students even have 3 majors. And then we have something else called a minor. So specialist, major, minor. Minor means they've got some pretty good content knowledge, but it's not a lot. And so your student can graduate with a major and 2 minors, or a double major, or a specialist and a minor. Like there's a whole lot of combinations they can do. But what we know from employers is they like people with kind of these interesting mixed set of skills that they don't just see in everybody. So I want you to encourage your student, maybe they don't have to change their major, but maybe they add a second one. But if they want to change their major, I don't want you to freak out, okay? Be supportive of exploration. That's my goal for you. Now, have I covered everything I want to cover? Interests. Okay. We have time for questions. As you think about things that you want to know or ask more about, please don't ask something that would embarrass your student if they're in the room. My little Johnny, something, something. Think of questions that are a little bit more generic, and we'll be glad to answer them. And if we don't get some things covered when this session is done, I'm going to go out in the lobby and hang out, and we can continue chatting. Is that fair? So we'll do questions. I'm going to try to repeat the question so that you hear it. And if you think I'm saying something stupid, especially if you're one of those experienced parents who've sent someone else before, you can stand up and say, hey, I hear what you're saying, but let me tell you my experience. We're glad to do that too, because I think that's helpful to the discussion. So I'm going to go to the first question right there.
So, when I want to pick my daughter up and, if she wants to explore, do I have a place to park and like, can I go and, go to the,
Right.
the health center or?
So the question is around places for you to hang out when your student is hopefully exploring the campus and using our resources. And the answer is we have some lay-by lanes where you can just kind of hang out. You could park in a parking lot if you stay with your car. If you leave it, though, Mississauga police ticket here. So you don't want to abandon your car somewhere. Otherwise, you could pay for parking if you want to come in and have a coffee at Tim's or at Starbucks. But you're going to pay for parking, even if it's just for an hour. So I think there are options. But most students just text their family when they're close, like they give you the 15-minute warning. Hey, I think I'll be done maybe in 45 minutes. And then that's kind of how they calibrate when the parent meets them at wherever on campus is convenient. Does that kind of help?
Yeah, like, how would I park though? Like, I just pay.
So yeah, so if you just want a short-term parking here, you can pay to park. We have pay to park meters, like the ones where you put the credit card and it gives you the little slip, and then you just put that on your dashboard or you punch in your license plate. There's an app too.
And is it now if you use the health centers or wellness center?
Like for your student to use it?
Sorry?
For your student to use the health center?
No, for me.
No. So this question was, are some of the services available for others? And the answer is, for the most part, no. Like our health and counseling center, our physicians are focused and we're super interested on the health of typically 17 to 24-year-olds. That's why they're here. They love it here. Same. There are some, like the Recreation Athletics and Wellness Center. Your student is a free member, but we sell memberships. So if you live near campus and you want to come on campus and work out, it's great. Your student will be horrified. But stuff like that does exist. Get me outside and we can talk about some more options because I think I've got some ideas. Okay, I'm going to go here next and then I'm going to go up there next. Okay, go ahead.
I just want to know about the insurance we're talking about. So there is a medical and health insurance, right? So it's 100% coverage or it's partial coverage?
Oh, insurance answers in any part of are never easy. Let me give you my try at this. Thanks. Let me give you my try. So every student here is probably covered by some basic kind of insurance. So if you're an Ontario resident, OHIP is covering a lot of your costs. If you're an international student, you're automatically enrolled in something called UHIP, which gives you basics. If you're from another province in Canada, you're probably covered by another provincial health insurance plan. So that's going to cover the basics. Then there's this supplemental insurance policy that sits on top of that. And the details are far too complex for me to explain, but you can go online to the student government website, click on their health insurance link, and it will give you the policy explanation book. So that'll tell you it'll cover 60% of this, and we cover 100% of that, but there's a deductible for this, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So if you have insurance yourself that you think covers most of that supplementary insurance, it doesn't have to be an exact perfect match.
Okay.
But it'll give you a sense of, is it worth, if you have really kind of not great supplemental insurance, it may be worth your student still carrying the policy, but you'll have to kind of do the math and the logistics and the comparison in the system.
Usually dental, and we can separate out, like dental can be.
Our supplemental insurance package is one package.
Oh,
So you have to just kind of compare the whole thing and think about it. Okay.
so we have to go like on the UTM side?
Do you mean we or do you mean your students? You can investigate, but your student's going to have to log in to opt out if they decide to do that. And they're going to have to do that in September.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
I pointed up here somewhere. Sorry. So, okay. I pointed to someone and you're not it, but I don't know who it was. I can't remember. Yeah, it was you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, sorry. You're next.
What's the stance on AI note taking?
Oh, man, that would have been a great question for the faculty member, less so for me. So the question was, what's the stance on AI note-taking? And I think now, because it's such a hot and popular topic, that most instructors in their first course meeting are going to talk about what they think is appropriate in the class. And different instructors will have sometimes very different opinions. And a lot of times those opinions are based on what the topic of the class is. In some settings, instructors are not particularly worried about note-taking. They're not particularly worried about recordings. They post their notes online. Some classes not. So I think it would be good for you to encourage I suspect most instructors will talk about it automatically, because in their first class, they also talk about things like, we're sensitive to people who commit academic offenses, who cheat. So they'll talk about that. In the first class, they'll talk about if your student misses an assignment or misses a test because they're sick, they'll talk about that. And then the other word that we used earlier that I realized we didn't define was syllabus. So every course we offer provides something called a syllabus, and that's kind of the outline of the course assignments and expectations and rules. And those are available for every course. Your student can see them now even before the course meets. And I think it's a great idea for your student to look at that several times over the first couple of weeks to make sure they understand. But literally, your first assignment is due on such and such a date. If you miss a lab, here's how you can make it up, or here's how we do something else to make up for it, or not. So that syllabus for each individual course provides a lot of great information. I way over answered your question. Is that okay? Okay. Now I pointed up here. Okay, I'm going to start my count again. 1, 2, 3.
Is there information about the textbooks in the syllabus?
Is there information in the textbook about, in the syllabus about textbooks? Yes, but most is, when your student registers for their courses, they're able to go into a learning management system called Quirkus. And typically Quirkus will have some information about what's required for the course. The instructor wants the student kind of to be able to make those decisions quickly. So if your student will log into Quirkus and then click on the course, between the syllabus that's probably there in Quirkus and maybe some notes that the instructor has already posted too, there'll be information about that. Are you expected to have your materials for the first day of class? Mostly, yes. Now, instructors identify some things as kind of required, recommended, and then some as optional. I wouldn't do anything optional yet. Give your student a week or two to see if they can even stand the course. They probably are going to like the course. If they don't have the book. If they do buy a book, don't mark in it in the first 2 weeks. Yeah.
Or the textbooks, or is it just?
You just go to the UTM bookstore website, which is really the U of T bookstore website. It'll give you all the options on the e-textbooks. And it'll give you a sense of what's required, what's optional. You're number 4, but I got to go down to number 2 now.
So what's the lead time for the student to get access to a doctor?
Oh, great question. I've never been asked that before. How readily accessible are the healthcare providers in the Health and Counseling Center?
For example, in our part of the world, if your child is sneezing, it's an emergency.
Yeah.
So you're sending the doctor.
Yes.
But here we believe that it takes you a few days, a few hours to. So what does the child need?
So the questions are, if your student is not feeling well, what's a good strategy? And I think the answer here is we invest a lot in nursing care. So nurses can do a lot of screening. So if your student calls or walks into the health center, they're likely able to talk with a nurse that day. The nurse will make a decision on, do we need to shove you in to see a doctor today or tomorrow? Or is this something, and sometimes the nurse may say, if it's at the end of the day, I don't think you're going to die. Call telehealth, right? If you're from Ontario, you know what telehealth is. So they have strategies to make sure that we can get a student assessed and then to be seen at an appropriate time. Okay. 3 was down here. Yes, sir.
Yeah, question earlier.
Okay.
What is a large question, so I don't want to take up anyone else's time in trying it. What is the university's policy with respect to AI?
Generally speaking,
Yep.
and how well prepared will our students be in the next 4 years for what's happening?
I totally appreciate that question. So the question is around AI and kind of the university's perspective. And I think I think I would say that the university's thinking, along with Ontario universities in general, is evolving. So I think we recognize that AI has come to roost, it's come home to roost. We're going to be seeing it, right? It's going to infuse more of our lives. And so the university's thinking is we want people to use it responsibly and thoughtfully while still learning how to learn. Right. So I think one of the university's goals is like I heard on CBC radio, I heard yesterday someone being interviewed from engineering, and he said, we don't teach kind of the skills that you need to walk in the first day to be an engineer. We teach you how to think like an engineer. We don't immediately teach you accounting. We teach you to think like an accountant. And I think that's where AI is tricky, because we need people to learn how to think about the field that they're studying. And if AI can help with that, great. But there are ways it could help and there are ways that it could detract from it. So I think where there's a real commitment at U of T and across the system to think course by course about the benefits and the disadvantages of AI. So there's not kind of a big, broad university statement, because I think so much is evolving. But I think it's really interesting, and I bet that's going to be the number one topic for the next 2 or 3 years in courses. And I happen to know, so his question was about employability. So absolutely, we're talking about how we can train people to go to work in settings where AI is going to be a tool they have to use. Our career center is talking about what are the careers that are maybe more at risk, that AI is taking a more strong presence. So those kinds of discussions are actively happening, and we're working on it every day. The Career Center is one of the areas that reports in that I work with, and they're talking about how they're going to educate students and how they're going to get information from employers about how AI is going to impact their experience. So thank you. I think that was a great question. 4, I said, was over here somewhere. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, great. Hey, I love that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for this opportunity. As a parent, it was really helpful for me. I have 2 questions regarding the accommodation of students. For example, for my daughter as a Muslim, so she has some considerations regarding to go to the gym as a in public area. So when I went to the gym, I see all glasses around. So I know how she will be comfortable doing those activities and also being healthy, as you mentioned. And I asked her, and she was trying to communicate to university to get the answer, and it wasn't really helpful answer from them. And the second thing that I noticed, because she's kind of active person, when she raised the question, I think there's a platform to communicate regarding the questions and answers. Maybe it's called ticketing or something. It's for other names.
Yes.
But she told me that when they answer her, they close the ticket. So she cannot follow up that. And it seems to me that there's a criteria for the people who answer to close the ticket.
Got it.
And again, she needs to communicate, and that makes them struggle. So I say there that not as a parent of my daughter, as most other parents that may say, they may see that,
Yep.
that the kids, the student, they face the same difficulty later on.
Thank you. Great questions. So I think I have a pretty hopeful answer on the first one. Is the physical education, athletics, and recreation. Sorry, 2 days of doing this wears me out. Physical education, athletics, and recreation department is one of the departments that also reports into the student affairs, which is what I deal with. And I think we have a really great program to sorry, I didn't repeat the question. It's around accommodations for students so that they really feel comfortable coming and using our facilities so that they can achieve that healthy body, healthy mind setting. So for example, we have women's only hours in our facilities, and I'll use the pool as an example. The entire pool has shades that get dropped for women's only hours. Our weight room, we have a surge this year in women who are wanting to do weights. Thank you. A real surge in that. And I'm going to give that chef. The shades drop and it happens. We also have different programming. So we have a lot of try me programming. So if someone's never done Pilates before, if someone's never done yoga, if someone wants to learn about pickleball, and a lot of those activities both have mixed gender times and single gender times because we recognize for a lot of women, not just Muslim women, for a lot of women and men who have issues with their body, they like time when they can try something without putting themselves in a setting of embarrassment. So we're really thoughtful about how we accommodate things like that. We also have some cool programming going on. Like we just bought a number of I'm going to say it wrong, seated basketball and seated volleyball chairs. And that's not just for students with disabilities, it's for everybody. Because part of what we want to do is people that better understand the situations of others in their lives. So I think we do a pretty nice job with that. Your second question is just hard. Yes, good. So whenever your student is having interactions with the registrar's office, which is the office that deals primarily with registration for courses, getting out of courses, trying to figure out fees, trying to put else, if they're seeking an exception to a rule through a petition process, that typically goes through the registrar's office. And would you care to guess when all students have the most questions in probably about 5 days over the course of the whole year, right now? So they get flooded. And so let me apologize in advance on behalf of the registrar herself. They have people working this weekend responding to tickets. Tickets are coming in so fast they can't, I don't know how they got out of bed. But they do try to do that. And the nice thing is, next week, that office also opens back up physically. And some of the lighter questions that your students will have, they can deal with at their front counter. So they're trying to screen out people there that can get answers pretty quickly to them. And let me deal with one issue that I think maybe a lot of you would want to know about. Let me mention 3 course things that are happening right now. So if your student is seeking a course and it's full, in other words, all the seats that are available in that course a student has taken, one of the things that happens is in the first 2 weeks, students drop and add courses. So a student will get into some course. A student will get into some course and they'll discover it's not their thing. So some student, I'm going to use math, I'm not picking on math, but some student's going to get into mathematical proofs because they thought that was going to be great. And they may discover it's awful. I was not a science student, so that is why I chose that example. And they will drop out of that course. It's not just they stop attending. They actually, on the system, they take themselves out of that course, and that frees up that seat for somebody else to fill it. Also, particularly for courses that are required for the program that your student is studying, there are wait lists. So your student is maybe on a wait list, and that wait list, they're ticking away. We've talked to people, we watch the stats, the wait lists are happening. And I think that runs until about the 15. Trisma, are you there? Same question I had yesterday. I can't remember the wait list thing. If you could look that up for me and share it in a minute. And then the third thing was, I had a really good third point and I've gone blank on it. Drops and adds. It'll come to me, trust me. Let me go to another question while I'm waiting for that to come. Oh, did you find the date? So September 15th, if your student's on a wait list, I'm guessing that they'll probably be cleared by then. Oh, remember the other one. And academic departments are actively watching to see where demand is. They're literally able to look hour by hour on a system to see if they maybe need to add another lecture or add another tutorial or add a practical. So we don't want to create a whole bunch that just have a few people in them. We want them to be optimized for teaching, but that's happening too. So all those different things are there. So if your student's not in the exact courses that they wanted or needed, I wouldn't panic yet. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go next, and then next, this is a power row right here.
So one medical word question, I know the kids are adults. Now, in case of any serious injuries or anything, who, they're capable of taking a decision, who do.
I'm going to expand your question a little bit and let's talk about safety, including your students' own safety. Let me start kind of broad strokes. Our campus is, we're familiar with what's going on across Ontario. This is a remarkably safe campus. So first of all, we're not in the middle of the city. We're kind of in this beautiful park-like setting in Mississauga. If you came up Mississauga Road, I mean, frankly, we're in an affluent area for the most part. We have the most amazing campus police, I think, that exists. And let me give perspective. For those of you who are from locally, this will sound like an odd thing, but if you're coming from abroad, from internationally, there are a lot of places in the world that when the police look like they're coming to help you, you go the other direction. There are countries where trust and confidence in police is not good. It is so different here. So first of all, when you probably see some of our campus police out wandering today. They are police. They can ticket. They can arrest. Their jurisdiction is limited to the campus, so they're called special constables, but they're real police. But they are incredibly diverse in terms of their backgrounds, their genders, their identity. They're amazing. And they're all great in what we call, and we insist on using, the model, is community policing. So they want to build confidence that students will come to them if they even suspect something weird. They want to know that, and they're out interacting with people all the time. I think probably next week, there'll be at least 2 days when they'll just be distributing free ice cream to chat with your student. And the other thing they're going to ask your student to do while they're standing there is to enter the campus police emergency phone number into their cell phone, right? So that everybody can get campus police when they need them. I'm going to tie this back to a comment I made before, though. Don't you all put the emergency number of campus police in your phone so that you can call them if you have not heard from your child in 3 hours. Fair? But why don't you go ahead and let me give you the phone number and make your child, your student, put this number in their phone. Can I do that with you?
Yeah.
Okay, grab a pen. It's 905 569, sorry, grab a pen. And like everybody's looking at me like I'm so old school. Put in your phone to share with your student. 905 569 4333. That's the UTM Campus Police emergency number. They also have a non-emergency number. If you haven't heard from your child in 3 hours, you can call that number. But still don't. 905 569 4333. Okay. The other thing I want to mention, and this sometimes panics people, but it's intended to be the exact opposite. We have something on campus called Walk Safer. Any student at any time, 24/7, who wants to get from one place to the other, especially when it's dark, can call can call this special number. And someone from campus police, either a building patroller or a police officer, will walk them from any place on campus to any place else on campus. So if your student's going to stay until 11 at night at the library, which is not unusual, and then they need to get to a parking lot, call, Walk Safer will come and meet them at the front door of the library and walk them to the car and make sure they get the car started and head out. And again, that's kind of that community safety thing too. This is not because we're responding to a problem. This is because we don't want a problem. Is that good? What else? Sorry, now I come back to the actual basis of the question you asked. Sorry, that just gave me a chance to go off on a whole bunch of stuff.
That's all right. My basic question was that if
Yes.
certainly thinking of making it.
So in the university's electronic record system that your student is now using on a daily basis, there's a place for your student to enter emergency contact. I'm horrified that probably only about 40% of students enter an emergency contact. And we don't assume that you're the emergency contact. We would like for your student to tell us if there's an emergency, who should we contact? And if there's an emergency, we are going to let you know. So there's a little bit of this, like this, we don't share much information with you, but in a lot of cases, we would have ways of letting a parent know that we think that something needs their attention. Okay,
So,
now,
in regard to the same question, so that means the first contact will be whether there is number or not, parents will be informed, no?
if a student has not listed a contact piece of information, police are going to make the decision, we're not.
Okay, so
If the students entered emergency contact information, then it gives us a very clear path to know what we should do. Now, sometimes, again, I keep coming back to this, but sometimes what you might think is an emergency, we might think is the student is learning and growing. But I think we're pretty good at judging what's a significant thing that a parent needs to know. But most of you will not hear from us. There aren't many emergencies that we would say tips that threshold of like, because you'll know already, or we will work with your student. Now, there's a time, like, let me give you an example. If I think a parent needs to be notified about something, but I'm not sure that it meets the emergency threshold kind of thing, one of the staff members will sit with the student and say, we're going to help you call your parent. That way, we're not breaking too much confidentiality. It could be something where we really want the parent to know what's going on.